Knowing your fears and working past them. That is our subject today. You're listening to Raise the Anchor with your host, Melissa Burbridge, where we take you through life-changing decisions and dig deeper into those decisions to see how they affected the people that made them. Today on the show, we have HR expert who went from the corporate side into her own business. Sometimes if you don't feel right about your position, you have to go into a new position. You have to create your own position. And that is exactly what our guest is here to talk about today. Welcome to the show, Ange MacCabe.
My pleasure, Melissa. I'm so glad to be here with you today.
So explain to our listeners what you do.
Oh, that's a great question, Melissa. Thank you. So Intuitive Performance is the coaching partner that focuses on the person behind the job to develop the behaviors and the habits that fuel organizational success through our whole person performance program. And this is basically a hybrid of workplace HR training, coaching, and facilitation offerings.
I love that you look at the whole person and not just what their skills are or where they come from. I like the whole person approach because as we know, some of our skills come from our life as opposed to what we put on paper. So I love that approach.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I mean, our stats show us, quite frankly, Melissa, that oftentimes we're not taught about our soft skills. And when we're interviewing or recruiting for quote unquote best people, 9 times out of 10 or 3 out of 4 quotants that we're looking for are around soft skills.
Yeah. And also some of those leaders that you have those soft skills just down to like a fine tooth and comb, and they know how to utilize them to lead your team into excelling with performance. And I guess you help people get that performance. So it's nice.
Yes.
So how did you go about starting this?
Another great question. So for me, I started my career a bit backwards. I had an opportunity to jump into consulting at a younger age. And what that taught me was a lot around consulting, entrepreneurship, operations, and HR from a 360 view. So all proponents of HR. And then I found myself with a young family, grateful for my young son who came into the picture, and we needed more stability. So basically what I did from there was I assisted a company to create an HR position. After 32 years of not having HR and being a successful business, that was something I was proud of. So I was able to build the HR systems, realign their safety practices as well. And what I noticed there was a lot of like salt of the earth people. And it started to make me really curious. So the organizational behavior from an HR technical side of things is what really interests me. And that's where I started to have that epiphany that it's about the people, not the job. And so what made this organization resilient was they had a lot of people that were dedicated to what they were doing and the leadership team. So it was kind of two-pronged. From there, I had an opportunity to jump into another organization I was headhunted into. And I was grateful because I learned a lot more about performance. I was sent on courses around innovation performance, and there were head of HR from all around the world, Ireland, US, Canada, Australia. So there was a lot of great minds to kind of take information from there. But long and short of it, throughout my career, I felt this kind of push-pull. So trying to balance HR with operations, balancing the being at the corporate table, we'll say, and then also making sure that the leadership team, or assisting, I should say, the leadership team with regards to what they're trying to achieve, but bringing in that human side of things. And so being the self-proclaimed HR geek that I am, I did a SWOT analysis on myself because I constantly felt like, is this it? Is this what it is? 9 to 5? And a lot of times HR, outside the strategic perspective, it's very repetitive. So each cycle that you can look at for HR has a start and stop, essentially. And for me, it was more about the people. So it was the coaching side of things. It was a facilitation. It was helping people grow that really lights me up. And so from there, I had an opportunity to jump out on my own. And so I did. So after 10 years of experience, I also received certifications from an emotional intelligence assessor perspective, executive coaching certifications, DISC behavior certifications, to really set myself up in a place where I'm not just organically helping people from experience. I have evidence-based tools behind me. So we opened Intuitive Performance on January 13th of 2020. So this year, we definitely learned how to flex our own resilience skills.
Yeah, what a year to start a business. But very interesting background. But you started off saying you did it all backwards. But I'm wondering if you didn't do it backwards, but gathered the tools you needed to be more effective in the job you're doing now.
I like the way that sounds.
Yeah,
I do. Yeah.
I'm wondering if you started this 10 years ago, if you would have been able to deliver to your clients what you can deliver to them now.
Definitely not. No. From the insights that I've received from the different industries and the people that I've been mentored by, and also, there's been some hard knocks and lessons there as well that has really kind of put the tools in my tool belt for myself to grow. Because I strongly believe as a coach, you can only jump off or offer from where you're at, essentially.
So I know you said you did that push and pull. What was the big thing that made you finally jump into that change of owning your own business?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, it was really realizing that the job that I wanted it's non-existent. So having that hybrid of HR, facilitation, and coaching, there isn't a job that has those components that I really enjoy. And also to that ceiling, essentially as an entrepreneur, the ceiling that you have is the ceiling that you hold. I strongly believe. So that was another proponent for me as well.
Yeah, no, I love hearing those words. So what has been the biggest fear going out on your own?
That's a whole other Pandora's box, I would say.
I know it's one of my favorite questions because entrepreneurs are like, because I did it.
For me, to be totally candid, it's being exposed. So I do really well operating with small to mid-sized teams, within quote unquote corporate walls. Being HR oftentimes is called back office, right? So you're not front and center. So for me, my biggest fear was, so when it comes to marketing, to the sales pieces of things, to be forward focused and putting out messages to the world, essentially, because our platforms aren't limiting us anymore, and ensuring that, I have thought and quality. So I guess distilling it down, my biggest fear is around, am I providing quality to my clients? Am I providing quality to my listeners? And that has actually, I've turned that into a fuel versus a fear.
No, that's wonderful. That's definitely wonderful. How did you work through your fear of going out on your own and doing everything and really only relying on yourself and not that cushion of having a job?
Yeah, that's another great question. In the first time in my adult life, I felt comfortable, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. I can tell you that once I finally leaped, as much as I was scared to where the next paycheck was going to come in, I felt like this weight off, like I'm finally doing something that I'm good and passionate.
Yes. And the other word that comes to me is alignment. I feel alignment with my ethics and values and what I'm doing for clients. And I also feel aligned just in general as my own whole person. The other thing that came up for me was, as a coach, we always look to mentorship coaches. So again, elevating ourselves within. So we don't just give people that quote unquote medicine, we take the medicine too. And one of my coaches had said to me before, what if you looked at the situation, instead of it being about you, so how you feel, so for example, public speaking. So I had an opportunity to speak with Microsoft for Microsoft Soft Skills. And I was petrified. It was over 150 managers worldwide. And, so what I dug into my toolbox was, I'm doing this for them. I'm giving them the tools that they need around emotional intelligence. It's not about me. And when you unlock those pieces of curiosity within yourself and really dig deep and figure out that thing or that trigger that can help fuel you to move forward, those are major components that I look to.
And do you find them more rewarding than when you were in your corporate job?
100%. I do.
And people don't totally understand it. I know my husband definitely doesn't understand when I'm like, yay, I got this contract. I need to cheers. Come on.
Yes, exactly. And I think for me, Melissa, it's really about doing something that's outside of myself. It's doing something that's a larger contribution to many organizations. Very grateful for the organizations that I've worked for in the past, but now I feel like I can help so many individuals, professionals, organizations, and teams.
So you do help a lot of organizations get past their fears and their limitations. How do you do that?
That's another great question. So when it comes to, I think what you're pointing to is imposter syndrome. That's kind of something that we talked offline a little bit. Really, when it comes to that imposter syndrome, there's a few things that I pull from. So there are things like self-awareness. So understanding and really dialing into or tuning into what does that mean for every particular individual? Because for me, it's going to be different. For you, it's going to be different. For someone else, et cetera, it's going to be different. And then from there, it's really taking a coach approach. And what I've learned with coaching, and I'm such an advocate for that approach, for lack of better words or modality, is that you're really co-creating an agenda. So if someone comes to me as a client around the imposter syndrome, and sometimes they're not aware that that's even what it is, it's co-creating goals and holding people accountable the way that they want to be held accountable and asking powerful questions to ensure that they're thinking and they're really going introspective. So it's the intrapersonal skills that I assist people to work on. So those are things like confidence, understanding the domino effect within themselves and then outwardly from a socialization perspective. Glennon Doyle, who's an awesome author, I see you smiling, of Untamed. She had a couple quotes that really resonated with me, especially around the imposter syndrome. And one was, "This life is mine alone. So I've stopped asking people for directions on places they've never been." That resonated with me so much because oftentimes we look for others for validation, swipe left, swipe right. And it's that immediate validation. How many likes do I have? How many followers do I have? What's going on in social media that can validate me? And it's not a bad thing. It's just a thing that we have going now from a social perspective. When in reality, making sure that we have our own strong roots, we don't have to look for that. We don't have to crave other people's attention if we have a strong or solid basis around our own self-confidence and self-esteem.
So true. And I love that you brought that up because that is one of my biggest things. A lot of people have to break that mindset that you need that validation. And sometimes it's one of the hardest mindset shifts that you can do for somebody. So when you coach somebody, do you coach them to a certain point and then let them go? Or is there follow-up and more work down the road?
It's individual based on client needs. So again, oftentimes I educate people around what could happen. So when we're talking logistically around coaching, again, we co-create their program. And then often my responsibility thereafter is to check in to see what they need, how I'm showing up for them, what else would they like to concentrate on. So for some individuals, I've had coaching clients for a year. Other individuals, it's been 3 months, 6 months. So it's really dependent on what we're looking at from a coach approach and where they want to go with it.
Nice. So is there a common theme that you tend to coach people with? Is it the imposter syndrome or is it something else?
That's another great question. For me, I put the bucket, if I had to put it in a bucket, it's around emotional intelligence. Because when we look at emotional intelligence, there's over 17 different factors or more, depending on the theory that you're looking at, with regards to how things show up from a self perspective, a social perspective, our own management of emotions, the recognition that we need, and our behavioral types, essentially. And so what I find is oftentimes clients are like, I need coaching on time management. I need coaching on performance and goal setting. I need coaching on, or I want to be coached on how to communicate better with my team. And I often identify out of the gate that this is the tip of the iceberg. So this is the logistical stuff that we can attach things to. And I would say 9.5 times out of 10, Melissa, that oftentimes it's below the iceberg. So it's the imposter syndrome. Am I enough? I'm feeling stressed out because of personal things in my life and trying to manage work. Am I smart enough? So there's a lot of kind of intrapersonal stuff that comes up first. And then, it's just asking the question, is that what we want to focus on? Or do we still want to focus on the time management piece, for example?
Have you ever had somebody come in that it seemed like it was going to be a small task, but it ended up being like a huge major task, and they were so difficult you didn't know how you were going to be able to help them?
When it comes to coaching, in my opinion, I do not think or feel that anyone cannot be helped. I think that it's a self-driven process. So it's totally up to them whether they want to be helped or not. And so what I do prior to having a coaching engagement as a client, we have really real conversations. Like, how committed are we to this? How much time can we devote to this? What does this mean to us? So not just selling a package and then figuring out as we go through. We really talk about what that means from an energetic commitment, a time commitment, a financial commitment, et cetera. So for me, I've been fortunate thus far where I haven't had a situation where a coaching client would be quote unquote difficult or not obtaining their goals.
Nice. That's awesome. Hopefully it stays that way.
Yes.
So what has been your biggest success or your best case?
That's a hard question. I was reflecting on this earlier. The biggest success I see is, I would split it up into three, just based on, the types of programs and offerings that we have, because it impacts organizations, teams, and individuals. And so we, through COVID, especially March 18th, I'll never forget this date. I was meeting with an executive director and the executive team. And that day we were supposed to talk about compensation planning. So the market's fallen out. We were totally stressed out on top of that because it's an environmental or medical pandemic. The team is very, very knowledgeable. They're very thought-provoking and determined. So to have conversations with these individuals in a normal instance, it was very much, we want to do this. How do we get there? Help us out, Ange. Cool. When the pandemic hit, however, it totally blindsided myself and everybody else. I think everybody was in the same boat. It's just the boat might have looked a little bit different for each individual company or person. And oftentimes for me, it was helping clients to determine or change the makeup of what our contract looks like. So in this specific example, we flipped it to employment relations. So we use the same amount of hours, the same type of project. And what I was grateful for, or what I felt was very successful, was we were quickly able to turn it from, we're in a tornado, this is a hurricane, we don't know what to do, Ange, tell us what to do, to, okay, this week we're going to focus on this. And we're only going to focus a week ahead. We're not going to look at 6 months, 12 months. Obviously, there were some budgetary items that we did look at to make sure that things were okay. And then we focused on how can we lean on government programs. So the long and short of what I'm trying to say is, in this year, success was helping organizations really get aligned with regards to what matters to them, i.e. their people, and how can we help them out during these challenging times. The other thing that I felt was a really great success from an intuitive performance perspective was we created the Elevate Business Challenge. So there was four goals around that challenge, where it was to help stage small to mid-sized businesses in Atlantic Canada to identify or put up their flag with regards to how they're helping out others from a charitable perspective, and then also giving them an opportunity to be vulnerable and ask, because every company looks different in what they needed through COVID. So we felt that that was a huge success as well. And the third, but not last thing by priority, Intuitive Performance jumped into a partnership October 1st, 2020, and it's been amazing. My co-founder, Scott Rust, and COO, is definitely a bedrock with regards to Intuitive Performance, and super excited to see what 2021 brings us.
Yeah, you've had a big year, but you forgot to mention that you also launched a podcast. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I did. Yes. So from the Elevate Business Challenge, it gave me the taste of editing and what it looks like with regards to vlogging, a new skill, which I did not think immediately that I would jump into, but I enjoyed it because selfishly, I was able to be around people. I was able to talk to people and help them through problems offline and online. And so from there, we created the Elevate Business podcast. And so what we're doing is we're interviewing key stakeholders, so CEOs, owners, managers, directors, with regards to the theme around performance. So how does remote working look? What does performance mean to them? What makes them tick? And genuinely be curious with regards to that whole person performance theme, which fits nicely with our product offerings and service offerings.
Which is nice. And it was a year of the podcast, I do think, but I think having one that fully aligns resonates better with people than just one that is, oh, it's another podcast.
Thank you.
Which I like yours. I've been listening to yours a lot lately in the shower.
I like the thought of multitasking. To be honest, I never thought about doing that. You know what? I'm gonna take that and do that.
Yeah, my kids think I'm crazy, but it's my quiet time. So I do. I always put a podcast on in the shower because it's just where I can absorb it the best without distraction.
That makes sense to me.
So if people were looking at getting to know you a little bit better, what advice can you give that they would need to work on before they contacted you?
That's another great question. For me personally, it's not about having education or knowledge. It's more about what are you willing to commit. So for our I guess ideal clients, we call it, we look at organizations and individuals that want to grow, that are interested in being curious and having authentic conversations. I know those are buzzwords, but I genuinely mean them in the sense that when you get into talking about change, it can be a sensitive topic for organizations. And we genuinely assist organizations in ensuring that what's written on their walls is what they practice on a day-to-day basis from a performance perspective. So to answer your question in short, it's, are you looking for a change? Do you know that you need a change, but you're not really sure how to go about it? Are you willing to put the time and commitment in or designate a key person to do that on your behalf as a leader? And do you want to grow your leadership team and your individuals? Those are the key questions that we would look at or ask our potential clients and existing clients as we move through different projects.
So do you work only with organizations, or do you have some small businesses that are just the single person working day to day that just wants to grow their business?
That's a great question. So we do both. So our target market is definitely small to mid-sized businesses, but we do have clients that are one-off. And so the way that we look at that around whole person performance is giving them the grassroots to grow their business. And if we don't have those skill set from a strategic perspective, we have referring partners that we use to do that. And then we really hone in from a coach approach around their leadership styles, their behavioral styles, et cetera, because as an individual, you know what it's like. You're wearing all the hats with regards to business development, creating partnerships, marketing, and all of those things require a skill set around communication and how we interact with individuals.
Yeah, and if you don't have good communication skills, you're not going to go very far. in a business. So earlier we talked about imposter syndrome. What advice can you give to those wanting to get over their own imposter syndrome?
That's a great question too. So when it comes to the imposter syndrome, it's really getting real with what that means to you. Naming that imposter syndrome, is it just around public speaking? Is it across the whole board of interactions with individuals? Or is it something else that triggers you? And understanding that, normalizing that you're not alone. So when it comes to the imposter syndrome, over 70% of people have it. So knowing that you're not just the only one that's feeling a bit low on a particular productivity or performance or how you're showing up. And then also with regards to distinguishing the difference between humility and fear, I think that's really important. And then also pragmatically looking at, okay, what does fear mean to me? What is safe and what's not safe? And then being able to turn that into being able to let go of things like the perfectionism syndromes, and giving ourselves more self-compassion. That's a huge thing. If there's anything that I noticed in the past year, it's really challenging for people to accept compliments. So the self-compassion piece of it is a real thing. And understanding what you need from a place of self-compassion. It's not the same for everybody. And it doesn't have to be white picket fences or rosy colored glasses, but rather really understanding what type of validation or self-compassion you can give yourself, versus looking for those followers or likes that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Definitely I have a bias, so get a coach. And, when you're looking for a coach, this isn't a pitch for me, Melissa, but I want to put it out there. When you're looking for a coach, do some research. Look through the ICF, make sure that they're certified, and then it's a two-way street. So ask for a complimentary session. Myself, I've done 2 or 3 complimentary sessions because like an interview, it's challenging to see if there's a fit within a half an hour to an hour. And when it comes to coaching, it's really personal. So I do go above and beyond with regards to ensuring that it's a fit with regards to conversation styles and the way that I coach. And then the biggest thing is say yes to new opportunities. Oftentimes we can justify that no, and that could be holding us back, and then also validating the imposter syndrome. So the biggest thing that I try to identify with individuals and professionals is, what will we lose if we didn't try? And oftentimes that question assists us with regards to identifying, how often am I saying no to myself and how can I say yes?
No, solid advice. And it's definitely not a call out to you, but I love the advice about finding a coach, because that's something that really resonates with a lot of people. I also say find a coach, research that coach, and make sure that they align with you. Right. I've worked with some awful coaches that definitely didn't align with me. I may have learned some things, but it took really the right coach to propel me forward.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's really important. And then also understanding their process, and specifically what that means and their product offerings as well.
Yeah. And certainly, I don't know about some other people, but I found some pretty expensive coaches that were useless. And then I found some free coaches that were great. But I found one that I was willing to get over my own self in paying a certain amount for was actually worthwhile than it was to hold back and say, oh, she's too expensive, I'm not going to go there.
And oftentimes I strongly feel that, coaching, it not being a regulated industry, there's some coaching practices that will charge tens of thousands of dollars for a year engagement, and they lock you into a contract. I'm not a believer in that. Again, it comes down to ensuring that you find a coach that wants to go above and beyond with regards to the value that they're bringing to the table. So yeah, it's really important around the message of researching the coach and what they have to offer.
So who motivates you to help others?
That's a really great question. I took some time to think about this because when it comes to motivation, we can be internally motivated and externally motivated. And so for me, I strongly feel that it's up to ourselves to find our own motivation. There's ebbs and flows, right? I don't think there's one person on this earth that's 100% motivated every single day, 365, 24/7. But knowing that for me personally, that I'm making a difference in individuals, teams, and companies, that is a huge motivator for me. And it lights me up. And I know that when I'm doing my work, when I'm on a webinar or a coaching call or doing some consulting from an HR perspective, that is when I'm alive. That motivates me to think more about how we can do things differently for people more efficiently and offering quality. My external motivators, my 8-year-old son, his name's P-Boss, and that's the name that he's asked us to call him. He's a huge motivator. He's taught me so much. He definitely has an old soul. And there's a funny story. I actually should have told you this when you were asking about how Intuitive Performance started. We were talking, and he has an entrepreneurial spirit. So he wanted me to create toys out of wood, out of our garage and sell them on on Amazon. He wanted us to be Amazon sellers. And so I said to him, I was like, should I really start a business? And I knew that I was starting the business. I was going through, and it just, I think it was that previous November, I just registered the business. And he was just like, yeah, Mom, you should totally start a business. Him thinking that I was going to sell toys, and me thinking that it's the whole person performance with Intuitive Performance. So a month goes by, and he was just like, you're working from home, Mom. What are you doing? And I was like, well, I started the business. He was like, you did? And he got really excited for me. And I was like, I was filled with pride. It was so warm to hear his excitement. He was like, so when do I get to see the toys?
Oh, no. Does he still ask about the toys?
No, he doesn't. He was quite disappointed. But I said, I help people and I help organizations. And he was like, I guess that would be second best. So he's definitely a motivator for me. He's super funny. And another motivator for me are outside of, I guess, my personal realm are, our thought leaders like Simon Sinek, Cy Wakeman, John Maxwell, Stephen Covey, Brene Brown. There's a whole bunch of thought leaders out there with regards to motivating pieces around best practices for leadership and performance. So I look to them. And again, my business partner, he's a huge motivator. He totally gets me. He knows when to call me to the plate. He knows, when to have difficult conversations or not. And we jive. So and you know what it's like, I'm sure you get people in the room and they just have this energy about them where it's like, you can talk to them about anything, it's very innovative in the sense of the types of conversations that you have. And that's what Scott does for me on a personal and a professional level. So I definitely put him in the circle of motivators.
No, I love it. And I agree. If you meet those people like you and Jen and I were in a networking group together, and
yes,
I really just, jived with both of you guys.
Jen's fabulous. And thank you.
I forgot to ask earlier, I love the name of your company. How did you come up with it?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So Intuity is a combination of things that matter. And when I say that, it's, oftentimes we lead from a place of intuition. Community is really what is solid when it comes to successful organizations. And also from a personal level, curiosity is a huge piece when it comes to leadership. So being able to be curious about yourself and others. And then with regards to the other piece of Intuitive Performance, it's really about that combination around whole person performance. So the environment, the behaviors and habits that we can look at and elevate from within.
Nice. Love it.
Thank you.
Before I ask the last couple of questions, what advice can you give to women or men who are thinking about jumping into the entrepreneur pool?
That's a really great question. How much are you willing to give when it comes to your business? I think that's a huge coach approach question that everyone needs to ask themselves when they get into entrepreneurship. Oftentimes we think about the work that we like to do, and then we have an idea that maybe we can do it bigger, better, different, more efficiently. And all of those things are wonderful and a huge motivator, but it's also understanding or thinking about what entrepreneurship really means. So missing recitals, it's you get the freedom and flexibility, but that's after year 3 and 4, maybe, depending on the pandemic nowadays. So it's, for me, I would suggest really pragmatic advice. And then also too, looking at your economic partners. So here in Nova Scotia, it's, looking at ACOA, the seeds, the CBDCs, and understanding their programs and how you can leverage them for your entrepreneurship journey. I'm so grateful for those partnerships, because if not, Intuity wouldn't have lasted through this past year with regards to free courses, and sometimes there's financial support as well. So making sure you know your resources, in short, is what I'm getting at. And then I truly believe in community. Find your people, find other entrepreneurs, and not all like-minded. You want to have people that will debate with you as well, and that will kind of kick at your solution, so that it it assists you to think further outside of your own kind of personal bias or blinders that we have. And then also too, making sure that you have the right people in your corner that can help you with those things like imposter syndrome and making things work, and behaviors. So making sure you have resources, not only from a logistical perspective in building your business, but also from an internal perspective in how to support you throughout this journey.
I love it. And I love how you debunked the common myth that I'm going to become my own boss, so I can work my own hours and everything's just going to jive, because it's definitely not that way. That's my family.
I see you.
Yeah, so many people think, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur now, so I can work whenever. No, it often means working 2 full-time jobs at the same time.
And the other thing that comes up for me, and I can't recall the source, forgive me, but I've either read it or heard it on a podcast in past, and it's about failing fast. So being comfortable with failure is a huge thing in the entrepreneurship world. You're going to hear no in some circumstances more times than yes. And then also too, with regards to that solution or that problem that you're trying to solve for people or companies, making sure that you don't sit in the logistical side too long. Because as entrepreneurs, we can sit back and be comfortable building. So building processes, building sales funnels, building our marketing strategy, and all of those things are very important. Don't get me wrong, but going out and being fearless in what you're trying to do from all of those avenues, I feel is really important, because you're getting indicators very quickly as to if it's a success or not.
Yeah, and you're not alone. One of the biggest things I think I learned this year is letting go of some of the things instead of doing everything myself. Mm-hmm. Learning when I can give a project over to somebody else has been so freeing, because I am somewhat of a perfectionist in some ways. So letting that go is one of the biggest things. Mm-hmm. So who inspires you? We know who motivates you, but who actually inspires you?
For me, who inspires me? For me, the inspiration would really be taken from those thought leaders. I feel like there's some overlap there between who motivates me and who inspires me. There's a lot of podcasts that I look to. So podcasts like Girl Boss, the Tim Ferriss Show, Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard, Unlocking Us with Brene Brown. There's a lot of inspirations in looking to people who are smarter than me, who have had more experience than I have. And, really thinking from a place of curiosity as to, can I think differently about this? Can I act differently on this? Or some aha moments? Those definitely would be areas of inspiration for me.
No, I like it. And the Dax Shepard one, yeah, I just started listening to that one. That's a good podcast.
It is.
I don't know what tree I've been under for the last couple of years. So where can our listeners find out more about you or follow your journey or reach out to you?
Oh, thank you so much. So we are on LinkedIn. So you can follow me personally, Ange MacCabe, or add me for interaction. There's Intuitive Performance on LinkedIn. There's Intuitive Performance on Facebook. And you can reach out direct at www.intuitiveperformance.com. And Intuity is spelled INTUITY.
Nice. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Likewise, Melissa. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening to Raise the Anchor, brought to you by Alizé Creative Solutions. We hope you found that story very inspiring. We look forward to bringing you more week. Subscribe to the podcast to stay in the loop. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review to spread the love even further. We hope you have smooth sailing.